All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We're here for our GoWP Expert Series live with Tricia Clements today. So if you are here, go ahead and say hi in the comments so we know folks are watching. And we'll let folks come in and get ready. And in the meantime, I'll do a quick intro just to get the ball rolling today. So I'm Emily from GoWP, and we are here today for GoWP Expert Series Live with Tricia Clements, our Google Business Profile and Local SEO expert. Today, we're going to be talking about the new reinstatement policies that Google will be rolling out, and they sound very interesting. Something definitely to be aware of, so you don't want to miss this, and I'm glad everyone's tuning in. If you're here, say hi in the chat so we know who's watching. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you are, you can say hi and we'll get those chats in here. Really quick, I just want to say a couple words about GoWP in case anyone watching isn't familiar with us. So at GoWP, we create happiness for digital agencies and help them to become more profitable. So whether you're looking to grow your team with a developer, copywriter, designer, or virtual assistant, or you're interested in outsourcing services so you can focus on growth, we've got you covered. You can come to us and we will match you with the perfect talent that you're looking for. Let us know the skills you're looking for in a developer. We'll find them. We'll get you matched with them. Many of them, for the most part, we've got them in our network ready to work today. So yeah, reach out and we'd love to have that conversation. And if you're looking for coaching and mentorship to take your agency to the next level, check out the Micro Agency Academy. You can enroll now and be well on your way to scaling your agency. This course and coaching program is designed to empower you to boost your monthly recurring revenue, master the art of strategic hiring so you know exactly who to hire next and how to hire them, skyrocket your sales closing rate, amplify your profits, and really enjoy more free time. So it's all about scaling your agency. So if you're looking to scale your agency and grow beyond yourself, I definitely recommend checking out the newly launched Micro Agency Academy that we have put together with Chris Lemma and Pete Perry. And you can take 50% off the first month now with code GoWP50. I'll put the link in the comments, and we'd love to see you in there. Yeah, so I think that's my spiel. So we'll get right over to Tricia. So Tricia is the owner of Your Biz Watchdog, which focuses on local SEO. And she helps agency owners by providing white label Google Business Profile management. And Google Business Profile is what was formerly known as Google My Business. Tricia has extensive experience in helping clients with problem Google Business Profile accounts and suspensions through her Google Business Profile Fix-It services. So we're really lucky to have Tricia as one of our experts. And Tricia, I'm going to pass the mic over to you now.
Great. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you for having me, and to GoWP for having me on these the monthly series here. So today I want to really just get in and talk to you all about the new reinstatement process for Google Business Profile suspensions, and basically what that process is going to look like in the future. Google's in the process of rolling it out, so it's something you probably have not seen, and it's unclear as far as exactly when you're going to see it, but what I want to do is get everyone prepared. So first off, as far as suspensions on your Google Business Profile, formerly Google My Business, for those of you all who are familiar with that, basically you can have what's called a hard suspension or soft suspension on your profile. Soft suspension means that your profile is still live and visible on the map for others to see. And however, you cannot, any changes that you make in your dashboard are not reflected live because it is suspended. If you have what's called a hard suspension, that means that the entire profile is off the map and no one else live can see it live on there. So either way, whatever type of suspension you hopefully don't have, but if you have one, you need to make sure that it gets handled properly and quickly. So just within the last 2 weeks, we got word that there is a new reinstatement process. And I really want to make sure, especially you all agency owners, are well aware of this. And I hate to really kind of be like alarmist, but it is something that we really need to want to make sure that you are aware of it and are prepared for it. That's really the biggest thing takeaway that I want you all to know, that you need to know about this to help your customers, and you need to be prepared so that and let them know what they need to do, and specifically what they need to not do on their Google business profile. So again, hopefully this doesn't happen, but suspensions, they happen sometimes, and sometimes it's because of no fault of your own. There are things in your profile, I've mentioned before, kind of the top 5 things. If you change the core things in your profile, if you change them, even if you're changing them properly, it could result in a suspension. Your name, your address, phone number, website, and primary category. Those things, even if you're changing to change them to what's correct, for some reason, maybe they needed updating. Like, let's say you're going in and you want to change for a new landing page that your Google business profile directs to on your site. Just making that change, which is fine to make, that could trigger a suspension where Google wants to go in and verify your information. So doesn't necessarily mean you've done something wrong, but it's extremely important to know about suspensions and how to handle them. So first off is the value of your Google business profile listing. That's one of the things that I think a lot of businesses either may not really focus on. Some understand and know, but especially when you're working with your client, you're using the EUTM codes, you're doing monthly reports, you can see where that business is coming from. And so if a business loses their profile, suspended for a while, it can really be, the impact on a business can really be significant. They could lose income, lose all of those leads and conversions that they were getting from their profile. So that's really important for them to understand that, which their Google business profile can, for some small local businesses, be a huge significant driver of their leads and conversions. So when you've got your Google business profile, one thing to remember is that starting one over from scratch, if you lose the profile and there's nothing you can do, starting over is kind of like the worst case, because the age of your profile does impact your rankings and your SEO. You do want to make sure that you keep that. Also, you need to remember that that's where your reviews are. So let's say you're a business and you've got, over 100 and something reviews, 200, some businesses have hundreds, some have thousands of reviews. That's where those reviews are. So if that profile goes away, those reviews go away as well. So it's really important. So that's the whole, as far as the importance of your Google business profile, how important it is for your business. So I want to talk a little bit more about the new reinstatement process and basically why this is all happening. It is currently, this process is currently implemented in the EU, and it's in Google's response to the entire transparency and the deadlines that were given in regards to that. So that is kind of why. And when Google rolls things out, typically if they've got changes that they're doing, they typically make those worldwide, global. It's a global change. However, what they typically do is roll it out in areas. So kind of go out in waves. And so the EU was the most important because of the EEA and the having to get that deadline to get the transparency that they were required to do. So that's why the EU, it was rolled out and it's out there. So as far as when it's going to be rolled out to the US, a couple of weeks ago, I was saying, oh, this is coming soon in weeks, but now that's probably changed. Google has not said when it's coming out to the US. So what I would say is take this time to prepare so that you know what's going on and your clients are ready just in the event. Let's hope nothing happens and everything goes smoothly. But if there is an issue, you owe it to your clients to make sure that they are prepared. Again, it's not if this process is going to be implemented, it's kind of when. And the process, it's going to change. And like everything with Google, Google tests things all the time. You've seen things. You'll see it when you do a search 1 minute, and then you'll see something completely different. That's probably Google testing a few things. So what the process is going to look like now is very probably going to be different what it's going to look like 6 months, a year from now. They're probably going to go in and change and tweak some things a little bit. So I will say that this new process that they're coming out with is going to be pretty restrictive for businesses. And I think that a lot of small businesses are going to have some trouble with it. I had to say I am concerned with a lot of small businesses that don't really realize how their Google business profile works. And they may not realize the full impact of it until there is a problem. And also, not knowing when they're going in and asking for a reinstatement. I'm going to talk about in a minute. The new appeals process is very restrictive. So currently, and I'll say a big part of my business, I work with reinstatements quite a lot. And currently, the way the system in the US is that if a profile is suspended, that whoever's on there as a user will get an email stating, it's just a standard form email stating that guidelines have been violated. And in that email, there'll be a link to click and to request reinstatement. You'll go to that page and you'll have a place where you can input your information and upload your documentation. And when you're in that page, currently, you have all the time in the world. You can look there and go, okay, I need something else. Let me go back and let me think about, get some information together. That's currently how it is. And so that part is important because that's going to change. If you go there now and you start your reinstatement request and you're not ready, it's fine. You can come back, you can do whatever. And then finally, once you've uploaded everything, you hit submit. Once you hit submit, then you will get an email back from Google, and it will have your case ID number. And that lets you know, hey, Google's working on this, and hopefully you'll hear back soon. And from there, then once Google's made their decision, you'll get an email of either you've been reinstated or you haven't been reinstated. Now, if you've been reinstated, wonderful. If you haven't, currently how it works is you can then email back and forth with Google on that email that they have responded saying it was not reinstated. You'll be able to email back and forth, send them additional information, ask additional questions. Sometimes you'll get someone who at Google who is good at, and you're able to work with them. A lot of times with when you're working with Google, it really depends on who you're getting. Sometimes that process is helpful. Sometimes you just get somebody who sticks in canned results, and it can be difficult. However, currently you have that ability to email back and forth when you're working on that reinstatement. So that's the current process. The new updated process that's currently in the EU and that's going to be rolling out to the US is going to be significantly different. So when a business profile is suspended, you're going to, they'll get an email. It'll have a link on it, a button that allows you to then appeal it. And it will include in there, this is one thing that's a little bit different, and it will be helpful for some. It'll point you to the section in the guidelines of specifically where the issue is on your profile. And if you're someone like me that works with reinstatements a lot, that will be very helpful, and you'll pretty much know what to do. With some businesses who are not familiar with Google guidelines and just look at it, that may not be as helpful for them. And that's why I really think that if a business, especially when this new process rolls out, gets a suspension, I would recommend they work with somebody who has handled suspensions and knows what Google wants. Because when you start that appeal process and you click that button and you go to the page to say that you're going to appeal it, it's going to be a different form that's currently there. And basically you are going to get to a screen, and it's going to ask you if you're ready to manage your appeal. And on this screen, I think it's pretty small writing. It says you have 60 minutes to upload your information after clicking continue. If you say yes, continue, you have 60 minutes. Your documentation needs to be in order. It needs to be correct. And you get that one opportunity to upload all of your supporting documentation as to why your profile needs to be reinstated. 60 minutes once you hit that button. You also don't know when you're like, if you get there and you click the button and then you get sidetracked by a phone call and come back, when did my 60 minutes start? You're not going to know. You have to know when you've started it. So that is that's a huge thing, I'll say, because a lot of times businesses don't have all of that information handy. When I work with suspensions, getting them reinstated, the way I work with business, I talk with them about their business. I ask them for information and review the information, then get back with them with follow-up information. Either things need to be corrected, changed, I need additional information. Sometimes I have had businesses take weeks or months to get information corrected and fixed it so that we could send them to Google to get a reinstatement. So when you hit this button on the new process, once you hit the button saying I'm ready to proceed, you have 60 minutes. If you miss that 60-minute deadline, whatever you've attached goes off. If you have sat there and not attached anything, that's what you get. Google looks at nothing, and I would say there's a high likelihood of you not getting the reinstatement. So the biggest issue with that is that, remember, currently the way you do is once you get if your reinstatement is rejected and you can email back and forth. Well, with this new process, you get that one chance. There is not going to be a back and forth email. They will send you an email saying you're reinstated, or you will get nothing. So previously, the way currently is, you get an email saying you're reinstated, or you get an email saying your reinstatement was not approved. And from that email, to contact them back and email additionally. The way the new system, the way it currently has to be rolled out, is not going to tell you you were rejected. You just basically have to go into the that appeal process again and look at the profile and see if it's rejected. Hopefully that part will change. We don't know. But again, you have this one shot. There is no other way to contact Google and refute that if it's rejected. That's it. You're either approved or rejected. So that's why this is really important, because previously you could go back and forth with Google support and continue to ask questions. Now, don't really recommend that. I recommend, I understand occasionally there are times when you have questions, but for the most part, a lot of times, the documentation kind of speaks on its own. There are difficult situations where you are that are unique, and you've got to go back and ask additional questions. That is going to be no more. So I would say, we know how clients are. I know how I am sometimes. If it's not something that's on the top of my mind and I really am focused on, I might be, I'll get an email. I'll look at that later. And when I look at it, it's like, click, click, click. I can tell you, the biggest thing for agencies is to make sure that your clients are aware of this. And if they get any type of suspension notice email from Google, to send it to you to deal with for your clients, and tell them please not to touch it, and let them know the importance and why. You have one opportunity, and if it is not, if Google doesn't accept it, you are out of luck. And there may be a few things that can be done, but I will say get it right the first time. And I know I remember years ago when I was working at an attorney's office, and one of the ladies there, whenever a form came up, she was just click, 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 and zoom, zoom, zoom. And I'm like, wait a minute, you got to go back 5 screens. You missed something. This is major. I know we all do it. You click through things and you just vaguely skim. that is going to really harm small businesses that do that. They've got to know if they get any type of suspension where they're working on a reinstatement, please let them know that they what is on there, and that it's very important that they take a minute to stop and come back and get help before proceeding. And what I do is basically prepare your clients, because again, this is like a one and done type thing. You submit the appeal, they make their decision, and that's it. And so I would say getting documentation together, and it can be kind of a bit difficult as far as like Google is not going to, they don't provide a list. Oh, this is a list of what we've got. Because first off, Google's not going to notify the spammers out there as far as this is what we want, because then they're figuring you as spammers. They're going to go in and change the information so that they can try to get around the guidelines. So that's one of the reasons Google's not going to give you a full list. The other reason is that when I work with suspensions, it's not a set, this is what I need. Typically, I'm like, okay, what kind of business are you? How do you, what, I ask a bunch of questions like that. Then I get them to send me some information about them in documentation. And from there, I probably have follow-up questions. And it's not just a cut and dry, this is what I have and this is what I send. Another thing is the fact that when I look at the documentation, a lot of times it doesn't fully match. So those are really important. I will say that this process is probably going to change. Who knows how it's going to change? We don't know when it's going to be fully rolled out and fully rolled out in the US. Hopefully some of these things change. I really hope that there are some things in here that change, but the main thing is you need to be proactive and get your clients prepared for it. Let them know how crucial their Google Business Profile is to their business. You've got the reports that have the UTM codes that you're using, and you can see where they're getting their leads from their Google Business Profile. And they lose their profile, this is years of SEO work that is going to go away. You really, really want to make sure that they don't lose their profile. Their leads and income could take a significant hit if something like this happens. So it definitely, just to make sure that your clients are aware of what's going on, prepare them. Get a system in place to get the documentation, make sure it's all correct. And like I said a minute ago, just because you have the documentation doesn't mean it's correct. I had just last week, I was talking with a prospect, and this was just talking about their Google Business Profile. And I was looking up some information about them. I said, well, I found your Google Business Profile, but your website and your profile have different addresses. Did I get the right business? Oh, they're the same business. They just hadn't updated some things on their website. Things like that, having different addresses in different places, that is it is a red flag. You need to make sure all of that information is correct and it all matches. And it's I will say a lot of times because I do work on a lot of reinstatements, a lot of times when I get a reinstatement, the client has already been through the reinstatement process and has gone back and forth with Google and then thrown their hands up. And then they ask me for help. Going forward, that's not going to be an option for them. So because currently I'll have some things where if I have somebody contact me about a Google Business Profile Fix-It issue that they're having, and I may, talk with them, look at their profile and see something minor and say, yeah, go ahead and see if you want to submit a request on your own or if you want my help. But that's not going to be an option in the future, because if they get something wrong, they're not going to have that second opportunity to go back to Google and change things if they get it wrong. A couple of the things, like I said, is prepared. Get your clients prepared for this. And this is a just in case, hope we never need it. But in that instance that you need it, you are going to be so glad that you had them prepared, that they weren't waiting with a suspended account for a month or that they didn't just click on an email and then get rejected because they didn't provide Google with the information that Google needed. And also one thing I recommend is also looking at the emails that are users on the profile. I know I've mentioned in the past that your users on the account need to really look at those users and make sure that they're not using other Google products, like, for example, YouTube, Google Ads, because that is something that if you make an error on one of those platforms can impact your Google business profile. The same kind of goes for this, because if you've got somebody who is getting this email saying you're suspended and they don't know about all of this, and you've got just an employee who is on that email and he gets it, it's like, oh, well, I'll help out and go through the reinstatement process. And you don't want that happening. Look, see if anyone needs removing. See if anybody on there that has access is somebody who likes clicking on things and just submitting it, and that without going through and understanding the process. Those people either need to be told what to do to send it to you, or to be removed from that. So different employees with the business and all of that. So so definitely take a look at that and see what's going on and gather the documentations for the business. It's just really crucial. I can't stress enough how important it is. I have seen things where I went to get a reinstatement, and the Secretary of State had that the business was dissolved. They probably had not paid their yearly dues, and over time, the Secretary of State just dissolves it. Well, that's something that, while usually can be fixed, it takes time. How did they click on that link that only gave them 60 minutes? Because that will not be resolved in 60 minutes. Or did they, how long is their business going to be suspended until they can get reinstated, because they've got to wait for another entity, the Secretary of State in this instance? Or is their address incorrect there? All of those are things that, while a lot of people don't think of that when they're looking at their Google business profile, they can have an impact, especially when you're working with reinstatements. It's just really important. I had someone, you need to know, as far as like, is the business eligible even for a Google business profile? Because when they come to you and say, well, I need help with this reinstatement, I had someone contact me last week and they wanted help with a reinstatement. First thing I do is ask a little bit about their business, and it was a lead gen business. Well, those are not eligible for Google business profiles. So I showed them the guidelines, say that it's not eligible. These are perfectly legitimate. Most businesses, it's perfectly legitimate to do. They're just not allowed to have a Google business profile. So there are a lot of different things with the guidelines, knowing what to look at, and making sure that when you're submitting all that information to Google, that it is what Google is looking for. So you need to have your documents in order. If you don't know specifically what to look for on there, I would say have someone review them, making sure that your clients are covered and has all that documentation up front and in order. So that's the first part I want to talk about. I do have a couple other things, but I want to see what questions we have again on this reinstatement process. First thing I want to say is, please be prepared. Notify your clients, let them know what is happening, and get prepared and get your documents in order. So, questions.
Quite a few questions, Tricia. Lots of stuff. So, one, and this is the most recent question, but I think it really applies to what you're just talking about. So, what do you think is the logic behind this new reinstatement process? And this person says, typically most changes make it harder for lead generation companies and easier for business owners. And this seems to be the opposite. So I know you said that this is enacted in Europe, right? So what's some of the motivations behind it?
I think the main trigger are the different things that in the courts or in the EU, as far as transparency and Google, they had a deadline that they had to have additional transparency. And so in the EU, and I may have skipped over this part of it, currently for the new process, is once you submit your appeal, if you get rejected, there is a third-party mediation that you can go through. However, that is not set up here in the US yet. So we don't know in the US what that will look like. The other thing is like, well, there's a mediation. I don't know what that really looks like in the EU, because you're thinking a third-party mediation, how long is that going to take? Because it will impact your business as far as how long you are suspended for and before you can get reinstated. So I have no clue how long that process even takes, but I do think this is directly from the EU. And like I said, when Google works on implementing things, while they roll things out in different areas, the intent is they always then roll it out worldwide. So that is for them, and it has to do with the whole transparency thing. And Brian, I do agree. I think it's making it harder for, especially, I really feel for small businesses, especially those that are working in their business and are small, and they may even not have an agency like those of you all here to go to and reach out to. And I really feel for them, because I think it's going to be extremely, extremely difficult for them, and they're going to have some problems. So.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, and it definitely sounds. You explaining the process was making me anxious thinking about it, because you always think that before you start a form or start a test, right? For those of us who have taken like proctored exams online, it's like, okay, am I ready? Do I press start now? I don't know.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And I will say that the biggest thing takeaway from that is, first, get your stuff ready and be prepared. If you've not dealt with suspensions, I would say find someone who has to assist, that, because you have that one chance. And let's see, Brian says lead gen companies will excel. They can practice on dozens of GBPs for sure. Yeah, I do hear exactly what you're saying, Brian. I will say that I have seen where Google has, as soon as lead gen GBPs are set up, they're suspended. So, there are times where it works, but then again, and that is one of the reasons why Google doesn't tell you specifically, you need to send us XYZ. Because they want to keep that to where, you're sending them your information should be correct. Whereas a lot of the lead gen companies, they're not going to have all of this correct information to send them. So I will say this whole thing does make me anxious, because, I look at the ones that I get now, and by the time I get them, they've already gone through the reinstatement process and been unsuccessful. A lot of them, not all, but a lot. And so those are ones in the future, I may be able to help a little bit, but nowhere like now. It's you've really got to know what Google wants.
Yeah, and also on that topic, another question is, this person says, I understand there are unique circumstances to each case. What is the typical price range for a reinstatement service fee? This makes it easier to keep in mind for future customers if they run into a suspension.
So if I've got someone who's coming to me looking for reinstatement, typically, because it's a bit more specialized, I would say that price typically starts out at $850. It depends on what is involved with it. Once I take a look and see, it can go up to $1,500, but it usually between $850 and $1,000 is the average cost on that. And currently that's what I charge, and I'd say that's probably about average for that. And if you're not familiar and have not worked through suspensions and don't know what Google wants, definitely reach out to me or someone else. That is something I'm going to be offering to clients, is to say, current clients for me, one thing I've always in the past asked for this information, but now I'm going to require it. And like for when I have current monthly clients and they have a problem, I have everything in order. I will help them with their reinstatement as a part of their monthly service, as long as I am the one working on the profile and they have not made changes to it, and they have gone ahead and not done something that I told them not to do. I've had that before. I said, please don't do XYZ. They do XYZ and they're suspended. So those cases, that does get charged to handle those. But sure, why my background went out. But anyway, yeah, I definitely, you know, me or others, find somebody, make sure that you know on that what you're working with and what Google's looking for. So
yeah, and the key there is definitely being experienced and knowing what you're doing, so that you can help someone, and they're gladly going to pay those rates to get their business reinstated on Google, for sure.
Yeah. And like I said before, each business is a little bit different. Typically, I start out asking questions, then request documentation, then review it, then ask follow-up. It's not just like have these 5 things in order.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, another question. Let me get back down to my question. So, is it any less likely to trigger a suspension using a more established Google account when making changes to the core information of a Google business profile, say 10 plus years old and level 8 plus local guide?
I don't think so. I think one thing I'll say is when you're making those changes, don't go in and make a lot of changes and updates immediately. You'll want to, if you have a change, especially if it's one of the core things, I would make sure I didn't make any changes within the last 24 hours. And if you've got to make a change, like let's say you rebranded with your website and your business name, I would change one before going and waiting until there's something on there that says pending edits. Wait until that clears out and they're no longer pending before making that next change, and especially on something like the core items.
Great advice there, Tricia. I have other kind of more general Google
Sure.
business profile questions. So one is that this person received a fake review, and critical, they say. Okay. They instantly replied, but the reviewer did not reply then, and they appealed it to Google. And Google replied that we investigated and found that these reviews don't violate our policies. Is there any other route they can take there?
There should be, when they sent it to Google and Google rejected and said that it was, so there should be a place on there to appeal it again. And I would recommend doing that. These can be difficult working with the reviews like that. I would say one of the biggest things, go in, see if you can ask for a reappeal of that, and in the process work on getting a lot more reviews and to bump that one down. And because if you responded properly and you're getting more reviews, I would say that I wouldn't put a lot of worry on that. Now, if you got a lot of those negative reviews that were spam and not true reviews of your business, then at that point, I'd say, yeah, if you're getting several of them, definitely work hard. And I have different partners that I work with that specifically work with reviews. And the thing is that, you know, sometimes they're successful and sometimes it's not. And a lot of times it's whoever you get with Google. So it's kind of, you know, just the luck of who you're getting. So they can be difficult.
Yeah.
Try to get it looked at one more time. There should be a button on there to resubmit.
Perfect. Another question. I'm updating a blog, and then that same blog they publish on Google Business Profile in the post section. Mm-hmm. That is 3 to 4 lines, 1 image, and then a link to the blog at the Learn More. Mm-hmm. By doing this activity, is there any chance of getting suspension?
There shouldn't be any more than anything else. I definitely recommend posting things to your Google Business Profile, and so that's definitely one of the places you would do it. So yeah.
Awesome.
I do think that posting a blog, if it's really has a lot of good new current information, is great. I do also recommend for Google Business Profile posts to make sure they're more geared to be like an ad, as far as this, that's kind of your free ad space. So that's how I really prefer to use posts. But leading people to a recent blog post, definitely that is acceptable and definitely should do.
Great, wonderful. The last question I have so far, do you have a disclaimer that you can share that you make sure Google Business Profile customers sign so that they realize the potential for suspension and any changes to core info?
I don't have anything specific. I don't have anything that I really give out. I do know that in my contract, I specifically say, you know, that once I'm managing it, I should be the only one making updates, and that if they make any updates and have issues, that that is, if that's something that I need to go in and fix, that there's an additional cost and it could be extremely detrimental to their business. I don't have a specific wording as far as that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and another question just came in. I think this one's interesting. Do you have a maximum number of Google Business Profiles you will manage with one Google account? Is that something that gets flagged or no?
So I don't remember, because I have mine in an agency account. So individual email accounts, there might be. I don't, because I don't use that often. I don't remember what that is. But yeah, if you're doing a lot, I would recommend an agency account.
Get an agency account.
Yeah.
Cool, great, really good questions, everybody. Thanks to everyone who's joining us live and asking these great questions.
Sure.
And for those of you who are watching the recording, join us live so you can ask questions live when we've got Tricia here with us.
Yes, and I've got, if we don't have any more questions on this, I do have a couple more Google Business Profile news. But if we have more questions on this, I'll be happy to answer them.
Let's go ahead and get started with more news, and then I'll collect more questions as they come in.
So I don't believe I mentioned this last time, but a lot of people want to know, how do I get my social media profiles to show up on the knowledge panel on my Google Business Profile towards the bottom? And in the past, the way you would do that is you would update your schema and hope that Google pulled it in and hope that it was right. So that has now changed. And again, this was something that recently rolled out. And when I first heard about it, it wasn't available here in the US, and now it is. On all the profiles I currently manage, this is available. So I think it's probably completely rolled out. But when you're in your dashboard and you're editing your profile, there right underneath where it says to enter your website, there's a place now for social media profiles. You can add your Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, TikTok, X or Twitter, and YouTube. I have a link that I'll share that also has the format, because you do have, like, your LinkedIn can be your company or your individual, but you're only allowed one for each profile. So for example, if you've got LinkedIn personal and company, you need to pick one or the other. And if you've got, like, let's say several YouTube channels, you need to pick one. You're not allowed to have, multiple of each channel. So that to me is really good news, because the number of questions I've had, and how do I change, or Google's pulling in the wrong social media, that's old. Now you can go in and give that to Google. So definitely check that out if you have not. Make sure that's something relatively new within the last month, I think. So definitely, for sure. And let's see. So that was one. Then again, Google is always testing things. So the next thing that has been seen, I'm not really sure that I like this one. They are testing allowing third-party reviews on your Google Business Profile. So what I mean by that is reviews from other platforms. For example, let's say Facebook or other home advisor, things like that. I think it's really odd to me that they're doing this because I think it was last in like 2011 that was done, and then Google pulled out and decided they were only going to allow Google reviews on Google directly to show up on the profile. And Google has specific guidelines on reviews. Know lots of different things about incentives, no incentivizing reviews, whether it's money or a contest. And I know I spoke to someone earlier this week. I think he was Denmark. And when I was like, no incentivized reviews. He's like, you mean like contests? I was like, yeah. He's like, that's not allowed. I'm like, no, it's not allowed. And it's not allowed on Google. Now the FTC has their own guidelines, say it's not allowed unless you disclose it. And of course, Google, you're not allowed to disclose it. So you're just not allowed to do it anyway. There are other platforms that may allow that incentivized with disclosure. So I'm really not sure what the whole thought process is as far as showing them from different platforms. It is common on places like, let's say Bing. If you look at your Bing profile, Bing is nowhere in the stratosphere as Google Business Profile. There's no place for Bing reviews. So what Bing does is pull in reviews from other places. A lot of times I see Facebook on Bing. Just this past week, I saw a Bing profile that pulled in from the local Chamber of Commerce, all their reviews, because there was a significant amount. So maybe that's what it is. But the fact that Google has their own review system, and now they've gotten this again. This is something that looks like is being tested. I'm kind of hoping personally that it's thrown out and they decide not to, but you just don't know with Google. If it's something
I do love that. I mean, one part of that I love though is, when you're gathering reviews, when you're trying to build your reviews, and you have to say, okay, leave one for us on Facebook. Oh, would you mind just copy paste that and go put it on Google now? And hey, could you do that on Clutch also? And could you do that over here? So I do love the idea of not having to ask people to send reviews all over the place. I see what you're saying in the conflict though on the different guidelines and rules around them for sure. So that's a little tricky, but it's I mean, I love it. I think, and we're seeing more of that, I feel like too, because for those of us who like to online shop, right? So you can see if you're shopping at REI online and you see a, like a North Face jacket, and you can read all the reviews and they say on there, this review was posted on the distributor's site. So it's like a review that came directly from the North Face website, not from REI's customers, but from North Face. So you see it other places and kind of pulling in reviews.
Yeah, you do. And that is how Google, the testing part so far has worked. It'll say where it comes from. So you'll know what platform it has come from. So yeah, I find it odd that Google is so, they are unique in a lot of their different ways as far as no incentivizing, because there are a lot of places that allow incentivizing reviews as far as,
G2, Clutch, all of those, they do campaigns for it.
Yes, full campaigns. And now Google's gone so far as to say there was one business a while back that their incentive was leave a review and we'll plant a tree for every review. And that was their incentivizing. And Google even came out and said that was against their guidelines, because even though it wasn't a monetary, it was an incentive.
Right.
And so it's interesting. I'm not sure if it'll ever get rolled out completely, and if so, what type of changes there'll be. It'll be interesting to watch.
That is interesting. For sure. That's a cool one to watch, because I know that's for someone who does ask folks for reviews and testimonials and things like that. It would be, wouldn't it be just so great to know that post it once and it gets posted everywhere?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. There was one question that came in. So by adding a lot of FAQs to a Google business profile, does that help in ranking?
Not necessarily in ranking, but it will help your business get found, and it'll help with conversions. So if you've got FAQs in there and those are questions people are asking, and those can may have your business come up in search results for specific questions. So I definitely recommend using the FAQ section for a Google business profile for sure. definitely, definitely highly recommend that.
Awesome. And I see a link you shared with me, Tricia, the support from Google. I missed posting
Yes,
that.
the link that is for social media profiles.
Okay.
That link, it basically shows you kind of the format, especially important for if you've got a company or individual profile, on the format and how that should look. So, and again, Google does only allow one link for each of the profiles that you're allowed to. What was it? Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and it says one per profile. So like LinkedIn, you're only allowed to have one. YouTube, one, even though, you know, and like Facebook, you know, your business page. So so definitely take a look at those and make sure those are on your profile.
Wonderful.
Yeah. No more wondering if your schema is going to be pulled in or not, or ignored, and wondering why it's ignored if it is ignored.
It's always such a mystery, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
Any other news to share, Tricia?
I'm sure there's something. That's what I have for now. I think that the biggest news is with the reinstatement. That was huge news, and you know, for you all agencies, please make sure your your clients are aware of it, and you're working with them to get together their information so that they're prepared. Let's just hope they never need it. But in the event that they need it, they'll be very thankful that they have it and have it in order.
Absolutely.
And it's correct. What Google's looking for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tricia. And you have an announcement to make. You'll be speaking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. I had it written down, then forgot all about it. So any of you all in the Atlanta area, or those of you all in the Southeast, to make sure you come to WordCamp Atlanta. That is October the 14th and 15th. So not under a month away. And I'll be speaking on Google Business Profiles there. So not sure the schedule and what date, but make sure you go grab your ticket. And WordCamps are a lot of fun. This is the first one since COVID, and WordCamp Atlanta was one of my favorite things to do every year. So I'm excited that it's coming back, and hope to see a lot of you all there for sure. In October 14th and 15th, grab your tickets to the link. I think it's like $50 for the weekend.
Awesome.
Great.
Yeah, WordCamp Atlanta is a well-established, well-attended, really great event. So if you're in the area, highly recommend checking that out. And Tricia will be speaking, so you can meet her in person and ask her all your burning Google Business Profile questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Tricia, so much for your time today and your expertise and all of your knowledge. Thank you to the folks who showed up live and really contributed so much with your questions and kind of problem points you're experiencing. It really, that kind of engagement and involvement makes these live streams so much more valuable for everybody watching. And if you're watching the recording, we hope you can join us live someday and send us a comment here. If you have questions for Tricia, you can find her at yourbizwatchdog.com. I shared the link in the comments, so you can find it there. And she's also in our Facebook group, so you can reach out to her there as well. If you have questions for our upcoming live stream with Tricia, go ahead and email me. You can reach out to me, Emily@GoWP.com, and I'll make sure to get those questions lined up for her so we can tackle those. And if you have ideas for future topics or anything like that, I'm always all ears for that. So thank you, Tricia. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who came, and we'll see you all at the next one.
Thanks so much.